Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rantz.
And welcome everyone to this week's edition of Sports Shorts presented by LeBear's in Baton Rouge Casino and Hotel. Go check them out. A lot of great shows coming up. Go to Ticketmaster.com to find out all the goings on over at LeBear's. Well, the past Super Bowl was outstanding. I mean, let's go right to it. The best thing about the Super Bowl was not the 10-point comeback with 6 minutes to go in the game. It was the halftime show, and everybody's either a Shakira or a J-Lo fan, and I think it's pretty unanimous here at Guaranty Broadcasting. We're all Shakira fans. I mean, and so 43 years young, I'd have lost that over-under bet. And give J-Lo credit. 50 years old, trying to keep up with that little spicy Colombian. It was a fantastic halftime show, one of my top 5 of all time. But the game was pretty good too. And if you bet like on the Chiefs like I did, then you were sweating for 3.5 quarters. But the reason I bet on the Kansas City Chiefs, and the reason a lot of people took the Kansas City Chiefs, was not because of anything other than one guy, number 15, Patrick Mahomes. And as I was trying to figure out what was going to happen with this game and why, it came down to this. I bet on the Kansas City Chiefs reluctantly. I put my wager in like, I think the 49ers are probably going to win, but I can't not bet on Patrick Mahomes. The 49ers defense was amazing. They gave Mahomes everything they could handle. He had 2 interceptions and no touchdowns for 3 quarters. They absolutely smothered the Kansas City offense. Offensively, the 49ers were running the football, doing what they do. They didn't take advantage of all the opportunities. They had that questionable offensive pass interference before half, which really kept them from at least getting 3 points. But they had a 10-point lead with 7.5 to go in the game. But Patrick Mahomes is special. He is a future Hall of Famer. He is that next superstar. Now that Brady and Breeze and Eli's gone and Roethlisberger's hurt and all these guys are, Rodgers is towards the end of his career. It's now Mahomes' league. And as Joel Davis calls him, Mahomie, as his, and I wish he was here to do his great impersonation. But the bottom line is that Patrick Mahomes is the face of the league. He put this team on his shoulders, and that 3rd and 15 will be remembered as the play of this Super Bowl. It's like AD in BC in the sense that it all comes down to that 3rd and 15. It's all about that play. If they don't make the first down, the game's probably over. And I saw an amazing stat after the game that in the last 2 years, on 3rd and 15 or longer, Mahomes' QBR rating is like 97 on 3rd and 15 or longer. The rest of the league's QBR rating, 4. I mean, that's unbelievable. And that's why he's a great one, and that's why they won the Super Bowl. And if Andy Reid stays, I don't know how you can't pick them to win the Super Bowl next year. I mean, players are going to want to come play on that defense. They already have the weapons on offense and the quarterback. They've got to be the favorite to win at least one of the next 2 Super Bowls. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we're going to have a couple of guests. First, we'll visit with Robin Fambrough, the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame sports writer. Will talk to us about the goings-on with the LHSAA, a big week that affects a lot of high school athletes around the state of Louisiana. We'll talk to her next. Also, a little bit later, Michael Cauble of WBRZ, the longtime sportscaster, will be here in studio. We'll talk to him about the Super Bowl, LSU basketball, LSU baseball right around the corner, and a whole lot more. Don't go anywhere. Sports Shorts brought to you by LeBear's Casino.
Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Induction Weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information. avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau St. Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase. Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rantz.
Welcome back, everybody, to Sports Shorts presented by LeBear's Casino. Ronnie Rantz here with you. We've got a very special guest joining us on the phone line right now. It's the 2020 Distinguished Service Award winner in sports journalism going into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame this coming June up in Natchitoches, Miss Robin Fambrough, who joins us. How are you, Robin?
Doing good. How about you today?
I'm doing great. First, before we kind of delve into the big goings-on of last week, I do want to give you a big congratulations as somebody who's been a big part of the Louisiana Sports Writers Association for over 30 years and has been to Natchitoches many, many times supporting the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. It's got to be a thrill and for you to be going in as a DSA winner this year.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. I mean, it's kind of a surreal thing. I don't know that sports writers or anybody else get into this business with the idea that, oh, I want to do this or I want to get that award. I think we're kind of competitive like athletes. We want to do the best stories we can, and if they're recognized, that's fine. But this is something that really goes above and beyond that, and it truly is very special. And thank you to you and everybody else who also plays a significant role in this.
Well, you'll be joining the likes of Kent Lowe, who's also a DSA winner, longtime friend of yours and mine over at LSU with a great job in the sports information department. And Tim Brando will be receiving the Ambassador Award. So 3 journalist ties to Louisiana being recognized this summer alongside the likes of Nick Saban and Phil Robertson and many others. I want to talk to you about the LHSAA convention that wrapped up last week, and this is something that you have covered for nearly 30 years at The Advocate. It seems as if I talked to Eddie Bonine in early December at the state championships in New Orleans. He was actually on Sports Shorts Radio on a Saturday morning. I was doing it from the press box there, and he was optimistic at that time. He had said, well, all the surveys they had gotten back, all of the feedback that he had been told to his face to that point led him to believe that come the end of January, there was, in his opinion, and his quote was about a 75% chance that one of these amendments, one of these, what is it? Is it amendment? Am I saying the right thing? One of these.
Well, it's a proposal.
One of these 3 proposals, which all 3 proposals had, I guess, in sense, bringing public and private select and non-select back together, that one of these 3 proposals would pass. He was very optimistic the first week or 2 of December. Obviously, something changed between that point and the end of January. I guess my question to you is, are people lying on the surveys? Are they lying to the LHSAA's face? Where is the disconnect? How can the LHSAA feel in early December they're 75% likely to one of these 3 things pass, and by the end of January there's like basically a 2% chance?
I think when they do those surveys, it's in the summer, and some of the parameters, some of the questions, how they're framed, that might have picked up a certain response. And the other thing it does too is it has people. I think I mentioned to you earlier, the thing I was most pleased with was you actually had people who were very engaged in this process, and they had done a lot of research. But the thing about it is, and there's 2 pieces to it. One, as much as we want to be progressive and everything, there's always been a air of caution when it comes to making major changes. The split proposals are one of the rare cases where that's happened. So, I think there's always a little bit of angst there, and I think Eddie also mentioned underlying angst between the public and private and non-select schools, or the select schools, rather, I should say. That all comes into play. I think it's nice to say something in July, but then when you start thinking about it and you get more into it, it's harder to commit to. That's point one. Point two is that change in the Constitution where you have to get a 2/3 majority to make a constitutional change, like bringing schools back together. That's a lot harder threshold to reach than a simple majority. Tommy Byler's proposal did get the simple majority, but it didn't get enough to pass.
Yeah, it was about 50 votes or so short.
Yeah, it was about 50 votes or short. So short, it was about he got about 52% of the vote, and
Did I read it right that about 40 or so principals didn't even vote or show up?
Well, that's not that unusual.
It's not? Okay.
I think attendance was very, very good because you have, depending on, and I need to get a hard and fast number on this. I've been told 395 member schools and up to 404, 405 member schools. Part of that has to do with schools that are applying and all of that. But so you say approximately 400. If you can get 350 or better, and they believe that they had 360 based on the number of the voting devices that were checked out and all of those things, that's awfully good. Because, back in the day that they used to make a joke about it where they'd say a lot of people just wouldn't bother to come. And the only way you get people to come would be if you would have some sort of, ironically, a classification proposal on the agenda.
Right.
And so, the attendance overall was very good.
There was a proposal, right, that said principals could turn over the voting to an athletic director if they so choose to, and that did not pass. Is that correct?
That did not pass. Mm-hmm. That has been proposed multiple times, and it has failed every time.
I don't understand why. If I'm a principal and I don't want to go, but I want to have some representation, what's the big deal? I send
hard and fast. The LHSAA is a principals organization. They will put that up front. We've been hearing that more so in the last probably 15 years. And one of the things, and I haven't heard this lately, but, say like 10 years or so ago, there were a lot of principals who didn't want to cede that power to an athletic director,
right. Which
is silly because the ones that you have now have the athletic director come and sit next to them when they vote.
Sure. Most ADs are there. Yeah.
So, it's kind of goofy that you do that, but you want to retain that power. And another example of that too, they put together some sweeping changes to the Constitution. I say changes, more updates. It hadn't been updated in a number of years, going back probably to the 80s at some point. And there had been things that had been amended and changed. They've had contradictions that have caused problems for them. And it needed to be modernized from the standpoint of how some legal approaches are made, because there were some things that they were having trouble defending legally. They knew what it meant, but the way it was worded, it was easy for an attorney to attack it. And, the idea there was, okay, we're going to put this out here. Y'all check it out, and we're going to approve it. Well, several of the principals made it known that they wanted to go into those things in depth. And in fact, they gave them the option to pull them out. That was the first part of the meeting before we got to the split votes and all of that. They pulled out probably maybe close to 30 of them that they wanted to discuss. And it wasn't, there were group votes where they grouped them in groups to vote on them. But there were things that were amended and there were things that were changed based on what the principals thought and wanted. Yes, yet another indication of it's a principals organization.
Let me ask you this real quick, so I want to touch on a few different things real quick.
Sure.
What were a couple of big things that passed? There was a bunch of things that did not pass, but as far as a couple of big items that passed that are newsworthy items.
Well, I think the 7th and 8th grade thing, that was also part of those constitutional changes. To keep that intact for schools was huge, because a lot of schools, especially your smaller schools, it was the way it was written, it was going to be 1A and below could only use those kids.
So this is 7th and 8th grade schools
and
that have
grade
7th and 8th grade on campus.
7th and 8th
Those
graders
players
on
are
campus,
eligible to play varsity.
They would be they'd be eligible to play varsity sports.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big issues they still have to tackle there is right now they register those students. They don't necessarily register all those students. And there are some schools who want all of the 7th. If you use any 7th and 8th graders, you have to register all of them.
Right.
So that may come down the pike later. But that was huge, because that so many schools rely on those. And then
Particularly
of course,
women's sports.
Especially the girls'
Mm-hmm.
sports. It's bigger. Most people think it's a guy sport thing, but there are a lot of schools who build programs. Our area meeting principal noted that they built a soccer program with younger kids, and they won a district title last year, but it took them 4 or 5 years to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then the other one was the maintaining the sub-varsity eligibility for kids that transfer outside the zone, most notably the ones from within the parochial system. With the loss of the old Act 465 thing, that has been a real sense of form of consternation for a lot of the private schools, and like Catholic and St. Joseph's, over 70% live outside of the traditional attendance zone, which all schools have gone back to traditional attendance zones. Even St. Michael is 60. So to have those kids be able to come and at least play sub-varsity, then that's a good thing.
Right.
And you and I talked. I'm not really sure that you get what you want when you limit some of these things. I don't know that you're going to necessarily catch a star football player.
Right.
Right. Some of them don't always have the intent. Don't end up with the intent or the actual function that you think they're going to get.
I think that's a smart rule. It's a fair rule. If somebody is willing to drive 30 minutes and pay $12,000 a year to go to school, then by all means, let them at least play freshman or JV. And that's what this rule it lets them do. And they will be precluded from playing varsity, but not many freshmen out there are playing varsity anyway.
No.
I do want to ask you this. Every year, everybody gets excited about the possibility of the select and non-select going back together pre-2013. It doesn't seem to me. It seems to me that every year that we get further and further away from the time of the split, people start to get more accustomed to living this way. You have more and more teams that are winning state championships and going to the Dome or going and winning a state title. They get a little feel of that victory, and they don't want to go back, right? So
yeah, I think it's part of it is some don't want to go back, but now that we're year 8 past now,
right?
We are. This is the norm. Even the kids don't get it. The kids don't understand it because they want to play everybody. But by the same token, the kids that are in high school now were 4th graders when this passed. Right. So this gives you an idea where we are.
So my question to you is, because you talk to both sides of the aisle, the public and the private, and have had a lot of private conversations. Is there even, because I don't think there is there even a proposal or a suggestion or even a path that even if 2/3 of the public schools got everything they wanted, they were able to put on paper exactly what it is the plan would be to bring things back together, is there even a path to that?
It has to be a really narrow one, because you got to realize that 67% threshold is what you have to get for 2/3. It's hard to get in a lot of groups. There's a reason why making a major change like that is supposed to be a 2/3 vote. And it's just like anything else in our society. It's so hard to please anybody. And, I like I'd mentioned Tommy Bowler's proposal, which got the 52%. It has some parts to it that people really like. But then there are some other things that they don't like. And what it comes down to, one of the key issues that the LHSAA may be addressing in a different way is there are questions about differences in school structure. Now that you have private schools, you have public schools. It used to be fairly simple where you'd have private schools, public schools, and maybe laboratory and magnet and a couple of magnet schools. Now you have charters. You have different types of charters. there's so many different educational looks and educational pieces out there. And, I had a person who's pretty prominent on that end of the aisle who said, it's not fair for us to compete against so-and-so, fill in the blank, because their school structure is different than ours.
Mm-hmm.
And they cited two different examples. I said, the first one I get, the second one I don't. And I never got a response, but that's
I'm someone who I went to public school for 8th grade in my freshman year. Went to Brame Junior High and Alexandria Senior High and Alexandria. Then I transferred to Menard High School, a Catholic school, which was a mile from my home. And I sat out my sophomore year, was ineligible, could only practice, couldn't play. And so I've kind of and I've seen both sides of it. And I don't know that if we're gonna nitpick, there's never going to be an equal playing field. Denham Springs High structure is not the same as Bel Air's structure. You know what I mean? Like it's.
No, there is never going to be a playing field, and the fact that you have all of these different educational models that are out there now just reinforces that point.
Yeah.
Because like now in EBR, you've got the two full magnets, Baton Rouge High and Lee, but you have a lot of schools now that have magnet components. Bel Air has one.
Mm-hmm.
Glen Oaks has a medical magnet. Woodlawn has one. Matter of fact, Woodlawn's addition to what they call theirs, I forget what the academy name for it is. It's the reason why they moved up to 5A in enrollment for the last classification cycle.
Let me ask you this. Last question. I don't see a path to bringing this thing back together. This was great that there was something that passed the majority, but to get to the 2/3, there were still 50-something votes shy of making a change. That's a huge number, and maybe they make a little progress and get some of those 52 between now and next year. But I doubt very seriously they get to the full 52. Wouldn't it be better? Because it's sometimes in life we find ourselves in a relationship that we don't appreciate, right? And we break up with that person, and then all of a sudden, about a year or so later, or maybe not even that long, we go, wow, they really were great. Oh, and I'd like to get back together. Maybe it's time to just split the thing down the middle, go public and private. They don't connect. They don't talk. They don't have any contact. And then after a short period of time, I think they both would appreciate each other a little more.
Yeah, but there are problems with that when you say split it how? They're not going to do that within the LHSAA. And that's something that the LHSAA has said won't happen. That's part of the reason why that the LSA, the organization that some of the schools formed, was not recognized, because it only serves one group of schools.
Mm-hmm.
That's something and I'm actually the person who suggested doing something similar to that a few years ago, but that's not something anybody's open to. And
so in order for that to happen, the private schools would have to just straight break away and form their own group.
There are a lot of issues with that.
Absolutely.
Because you have a concentration of schools in South Louisiana, North Louisiana, not so much.
Right.
And then there's the other thing that people don't realize either. The National Federation of High Schools recognizes only one association, and that will be the LHSAA. The private schools, if they broke off into their own group, would not be able to play any of the LHSAA schools.
Now, don't they have different associations in other states, private and public?
Yeah, but only one's recognized by the National Federation.
Gotcha. But how big of a deal is that? My question is that if there's the Ronnie Rantz High School organization and it's for only for the private schools, and they have their own state championships at Tulane or the Dome or wherever, does it really matter if it's sanctioned by the National Federation?
Well, there's a lot of prestige with that. Plus, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of framework that goes with the National Federation. They provide a lot for the members. They provide a lot of programs. They provide, like online courses. They do have a function actually with
Gotcha.
state associations, as strange as that seems. And I don't know what that would look like. I'm just a purist. I like to see schools continuing to play each other.
Sure.
And wouldn't it be a shame if we lost some of that? We're already losing some of it now. But if you didn't have a chance where, your big public schools would have a chance to play, like whether it would be, I don't know who would be a good example of it right now. See, I always liked the Catholic and Zachary game, and that kind of went away last year. I don't know if it's going to come back locally because I thought that was a good matchup, and even Catholic and Parkview has been a good game here locally. And then in basketball, you've had a few like that. If that brings to question what would happen to Scotlandville if they went with that percentage. Scotlandville has a component. They have an engineering.
Right. They have a magnet component.
So they would wind up back at the public schools.
Let me ask you this last thing. You're after being there all week at the convention last week. Are we closer to the hypothetical of ever getting back together, or are we further closer to a complete split in the private schools breaking off and doing their own thing?
I think we're closer to. I think there's more of a dialogue between the two. I wouldn't say closer to getting back together because I'm one of those people who contends you have people at these schools who have been on both sides of the aisle. That's one of the reasons why a lot of our principals and administrators here in Baton Rouge get along when they get together for their local group because they've all worked together in one form or another. But there was a genuine dialogue this year between not totally between the two groups, but people were more open to talking. The last couple of years before that had kind of gotten a little contentious where you'd have meetings where people would sit in there and when, say, like a private school person would raise their hand to make a point, you'd see other people in the back of the room either making faces or snide comments. Right. And you can understand why there was the frustration that there was. And, I think the private schools have learned some key things from what happened so far this year with trying to do these split championships, these standalone championships. It's a bit of a chore. It's a little bit it's a little bit different, and it's also, when you take them out of the regular championship event, what do? We're kind of in a catch-22 there. In order to make this workable, what needs to happen is goes back to the old give and take, and nobody wants to give and take anything, is that you need to reduce the number of championships or come up with a different format or formula for doing them. And they did just that. They voted on some of those in class meetings. Hey, we want to cut the number of teams down to, say, this many in this division and in this class. And that happened the day before the General Assembly vote, and virtually all of those failed. So that just leaves you at status quo.
Robin, thanks for the education. Thanks for filling us in on everything that went down over at the convention. And congratulations once again on being named one of the Distinguished Service Award winners. And will be honored the last weekend in June up in Natchitoches at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. We look forward to talking to you.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll take a break here on Sports Shorts, and when we come back, Michael Cauble of WBRZ, the sports director for a very long time, almost as long as Robin Fambrough has been at The Advocate. We'll talk to Michael Cauble next.
Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information. If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau St. Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase. Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rantz.
Welcome back, everybody, to Sports Shorts, presented by LeBear's Casino. Ronnie Rantz here with you, and that's Michael Cauble of WBRZ Channel 2. I want to thank Robin Fambrough, who joined us. I mean, you could literally talk to her. You could just ask her like 3 questions, let her go for an hour.
So many stories. I mean, the things that she's seen, the people she's talked to throughout the state, the athletes she's watched grow up. It's amazing.
Yeah, this is in her 30th year at the Advocate. No one knows more about the LHSAA and how it all works than she does.
So deserving of going into the Hall. Congratulations to you and, of course, to Robin and all the inductees this year. Another great class, Ronnie.
So I was asking you if you went to the Super Bowl. You said no, but your sister did. And obviously, I had a buddy, my college roommate, Louis Garcia over there, who was given 2 tickets to the Super Bowl by, not great tickets, but the Miami Dolphins gave him a couple tickets. He's got a relationship with the Dolphins organization as a vendor and stuff. And the face value on those tickets were $1,000 a piece. Okay, face value. He turned around, thank you so much, Dolphins, really appreciate it, sold them, okay, but didn't like put them on StubHub or anything like that. Called a ticket broker friend, a Piazza type friend, and got $5,000 a piece for him.
This is exactly what my sister was just telling me we need to do every year.
So she got him. He made $10,000. Just the thank you so much. Don't want to go. $10,000.
Yeah.
That guy turned around. That gave him 10. Sold him for 7 a piece. Yeah. That guy made 4.
Right.
And then he said he saw those tickets online listed for like $8,000 a piece or something.
So my sister had a friend that had 2 tickets, wound up selling them for $12,000 each.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what she said. She's like, Michael, I don't know how we get Super Bowl tickets, but we need to go in there, get them as soon as we can, and then even if you fly down,
even if you pay $4,000 a piece
and go down and fly down, and all your expenses paid while you're there, you're still going to recoup your losses. She's like, it's our college fund for our kids. I was like, yeah, you're right. And then she's like, you're laughing, but I'm serious. I was like, how do you get? And she's like, how do you get tickets? I was like, I don't know. It's probably a lottery system, kind of like you said. So much of the Super Bowl is corporate.
Oh yes,
bought. And that's kind of what she was sharing with me. They operate a Chick-fil-A up in Kansas, and so one of their incentive packages this year, if they reach certain goals, I don't know what they were to go to the Super Bowl. So they did. Her and her husband both.
So your sister runs a Chick-fil-A in Kansas.
In the middle of America, Kansas. And
where in Kansas?
Salina, Kansas.
Where is that near?
Right in the middle of a map of America.
Like near nothing.
Near nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, it really isn't really close to anything.
Because, I mean, my brother played junior college baseball in Kansas at Pratt Junior College. So I'm a little bit familiar with the map. But I've never heard of Salina.
Smack dab in the middle, right? But this is the rub, Ronnie. Like, we're looking at all these Chick-fil-A's opening up in Baton Rouge, Burbank, killing it, Highland Road, killing it, all these Segan, always killing it. She opens up this Chick-fil-A in Kansas. No one has heard of Chick-fil-A. People are going in there ordering burgers, trying to get burgers.
What?
They don't know. They don't understand sweet tea. The favorite thing, some of our favorite stories were whenever people, place the order, well, we need a name for your order. Why do you need our name? What are you going to do with our name? Well, we have to call it out whenever. And like here in Baton Rouge,
give me a fake name. I don't care.
Yeah, everybody loves to go out and eat here, right? I mean, well, up there, it's like nobody goes out to eat.
So how long ago did she open that Chick-fil-A?
I think it's about 2 or 3 years now.
And then now it's killing?
It's definitely picked up. But man, it was a
But maybe the bar was like really low, so she crossed over the threshold, got 2 tickets.
Yeah, right. Maybe that's where they started. I don't know. It was just so crazy because we're like, of all the places you could have opened a Chick-fil-A, you give us this one in Nowheresville that is going to. So
she wanted to be a franchisee. It's kind of like, and they just said, well, if it's like being a State Farm agent. You want to be an agent? All right, fine. Here's the city you got to go to.
And you can't really pass it up. I mean, it was a 3-year process for them to try to become an operator. And so finally they crossed over and they did.
How old is your sister?
My sister is, 47.
Okay, that's my age. So she's 47. She's married. She just in the last 2-3 years has opened a Chick-fil-A. She's committed to Salina
for real
for 20 years or more of her life.
And that was the thing.
That'd be a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be a lot of incentives.
They'll be going to the Super Bowl every year.
I mean, she was in Lafayette. Before that they were in Hammond, and we were trying to get something in the South.
Right.
Like, could you open something up? That we can see you. Nope, right smack dab in the
Salina.
middle of nothing. God bless them.
Well, you can go see Les Miles and go see
Right.
her.
Well, that's when Les went up there. They were doing something that he was speaking at, and I told her, I was like, go up and tell him who you are. He'll know who you are.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Hopefully he knows who you are.
Right.
The chance is 50-50.
I was doing my job wrong if he doesn't.
Right. By the way, it was so fun. Well, before we get to the Super Bowl, just so happens on Saturday morning we were talking about Chick-fil-A because it's always a great experience. It's always super fast and the food's always good. Although I am a Popeye's chicken sandwich guy.
I haven't had it yet.
Don't beat me up on it. But so this past Saturday morning, I live in Denham Springs and I want to run to that Chick-fil-A on Range. They must have been giving it away because it was packed and I didn't have time. So instead, I detoured to a place across the street from Guarantee. I'm not going to tell you the name, but I got a McGriddle and it was a problem. All right, but anyway, it made me late. Hold on yards. But
made you late.
I mentioned to Joel Davis that one of the bigger regrets I had is that I didn't become a Chick-fil-A franchisee 15, 20 years ago. It could have changed my life. And he's told me I had zero chance of being a Chick-fil-A franchisee. And I said, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And he explained to me that there's a process. You can probably, and that a simple Google background check and some blood work would preclude me from being a franchisee. I didn't realize it was so stringent.
I think the urban legends would have just precluded you from getting your application in.
So I mean, like, it's a tough deal. Like your sister went through the grind.
Thorough, yes, and it's her husband, not my sister. But,
Okay.
But he had a really good job, and he wanted to do this, and he just stayed at it, and eventually came through. But man, it really was like 10 callbacks, 12 callbacks, and that's
Like
over
they
the course
dig in
of
your background and everything.
3 years. Like they went through this vetting process,
Yeah.
and then finally, I don't know what tips it, but then they're like, okay, you're on board. And so I think it's funny because we used to joke, you're like, man, I guess if you're going to vet somebody for that long, they're really committed. So I guess you can put them in the middle of America, and
Right.
no, they'll withhold the challenges.
Well, I'll tell you this: regardless of what you think of the food, it's the best fast food experience you'll ever have. Is any Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
Other than the one in Natchitoches, it's really weird.
Is it
But,
really?
yeah. It's not like a true Chick-fil-A.
Oh.
It's like when you go to Chick-fil-A at the mall.
The mall?
And it's like a kiosk
Yeah,
Chick-fil-A.
yeah.
Well, they have that across the street from Northwestern State, and it's no drive-through, no anything. It's a little small shop, but it's run by the on-campus food vendor deal, and so it's not the same. Like it's not the same experience. It's pretty brutal. So let's talk about the Super Bowl.
Sure.
Did you have a prediction going in?
I did. I thought Kansas would win it. Kansas City would win it 27-20.
They're not in Kansas, right? It's Missouri. Just
Kansas City.
checking.
I was well
Some
aware.
people get that confused.
Some people. And look, I would get that confused too. I mean, because I'm sure there's a Kansas City, Kansas.
I mean, Overland Park. I mean, it's right on the border, Kansas and Missouri. And Overland Park, Kansas, which is a suburb of Kansas City, is like the nice part of the. It's like Metairie to New Orleans.
Oh, is that right?
And it's like the super nice part, like Scottsdale to Phoenix, but it's still Kansas.
Right.
So the taxes go to Kansas over there. But you can see how Trump would get that confused.
I just think he might fact
Didn't
check
campaign
that.
a whole lot.
I mean,
in
you got
Kansas.
people,
He already had
right?
him locked up.
You got people. Couldn't they prove it for you? Like,
I know, sir.
somebody. I couldn't point out Ukraine on a map though. I'll just be quite honest with that.
Yeah.
I had to look that up.
By the way, I'm not. People make mistakes. Have they still come up with any results yet in Iowa? Just checking. We haven't figured that out
Are they
yet.
flipping coins?
I mean,
Playing
what's going
checkers?
on?
What are
I
they
mean,
doing up there?
I thought they
I never
raised
really
their
understood
hand
it.
and went to smaller groups. I saw a 60 Minutes one time on it. Anyway.
Okay.
So you had the Kansas City Chiefs
27-20.
27-20.
That was pretty close.
Not bad.
Yeah, that last touchdown.
Yeah, look, garbage
Kind of killed
score.
me. Yeah, I was like, otherwise I would have been three off, but instead of 4 off. But
Yeah. Well,
it played out about like I thought. Kick a couple field goals, score a couple touchdowns. I didn't think that Kansas City would have to come back from the margin they did, nor did I think they would be able to score 21 unanswered. But yeah, I thought that offense would eventually find its stride, and I was very impressed with Frisco's defense. I'm not going to lie, but at some point, you got to get your playmakers the ball, and I felt confident that Kansas City would be able to do that.
Well, the San Francisco defense is a legitimate deal, and this was the 5th time the number one defense took on the number one offense in the Super Bowl, and now it's 3-2 in favor of offense.
Is that right?
That's the number. But Mahomes, as much as I really like San Francisco, I thought they were more battle tested, had the tougher schedule, had the more impressive wins at New Orleans, at Baltimore, had won different ways, shootouts, grinded out defense. I thought they probably would win,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of the day, I put my money on Kansas City because I just believe in number 15. I mean,
Yeah.
he is, he should have been in the Super Bowl last year, minus the offsides deal. He was the best quarterback in the league last year, and you knew, okay, this is it. He's taken over as Brady and Breeze and Roethlisberger and others and Rodgers have started to deteriorate.
Right.
He's the face of the
Next
league.
wave, yeah.
And I really do believe they'll win one of the next 2 Super Bowls.
Do you really?
I do.
See, that's just so hard to do and, maintain success.
Right.
And we're going to see it here in Baton Rouge this fall. What does your leadership do to uphold the standards that you've now set? And I think that'll be the challenge. And, of course, free agency in any pro sport is always, could be a death knell for a team. I thought it was interesting how, I'll say poor. I thought everyone across the board played, from Garoppolo to Mahomes. Garoppolo had his moments, but and even the defense at times, Richard Sherman, I was surprised how poor they played at times because I was expecting a little bit more pizzazz, I guess, from Mahomes. And it really seemed to some degree like either he was limited with his knee or that the defense was really just giving him that many fits. I thought he'd be a little bit more of a playmaker, and really you didn't see it, especially from his legs.
Yeah, I think I think it was so much the knee. I think it was the fact that he was getting pressure like crazy. And look, it's
Pressure
20
with
to
4.
10. He's driving down there, and he's going to get points, and he throws that bad slant where he's all awkward, kind of does the Archie Manning sidearm deal, and that was his mistake. And instead of it being 20 to 17, 20 to 13, then they get the ball, you think it's over. But I just give them, San Fran, that much credit. I mean, that defense is really, really good.
I was watching the game, and I'm looking at the box, and it's like a 4 or 5 man box at times. I'm like, why are you not handing the ball off?
Right.
Because he had the back next to him. And I'm just like, man, run the ball at them, make them tackle you, make them respect it, But you saw that 44-yard bomb to Hill, and the game bust wide open. It's amazing.
That one play changed the whole thing.
It's crazy how you can just set a defense back on its heels just enough, to start working your other stuff once you connect. And I'm happy. Everybody's happy for Andy Reid, right? Like, I mean, I'm in that group. I mean, you want guys that you think you perceive to be good guys to do it. I would have been happy if Kyle Shanahan had got a little bit of redemption as well,
Not me, man. I'm in the 49ers thing for me is a real thing. Growing up a Saints fan,
okay.
NFC West, and in the 80s and 90s, and just getting our brains beat in by them.
They're so good, though. I mean,
they were great, but
opposite ends of the spectrum.
It's kind of like pulling for the Falcons. Like if the Falcons went to the NFC East, I'm never gonna be pulling for the Falcons.
Sure.
But just because San Fran's not in our division, I had 30 years of hate. So I mean, I don't want them to do anything. But I do believe that the Chiefs will win one of the next 2 because I think the guy that they have leading the way is legit. The weapons are going to stay for at least another year. I think the division they're in is going to be bad for another year. That the AFC West. I don't think the Raiders are going to get their act together, or the Chargers are going to have a new quarterback.
And you'll have the
Broncos
drop
are
off.
still. I don't think they're going to.
Eventually.
Yeah. And then you got the Patriots thing. The Steelers aren't the same. You will have to contend with the Ravens, no doubt. But I think Tyrann Mathieu is probably going to be able to recruit a defensive player or 2. Who's not going to want to play with that guy in that defense? So
I think that was interesting too, watching that game, because I'm watching it and I'm seeing him in space and I'm seeing him at the goal line. He didn't want any part of that fullback, scoring the touchdown.
Understandably.
And then he's such the rah guy in their face and stuff. It was funny to see how that kind of played out, and of course hear how locally we love Tyrann, right?
Right.
Tyrann can do no wrong, but then you're kind of like, I don't know, Tyrann's not really making the plays that we'd expect him to make. It was amazing what a playmaker he was at LSU. But the NFL, and I was thinking about this, I'm sure it's because of the size and the speed of the guys that he's going up against. He doesn't really throw his face in there as much as he did in college. So
you got to pick and choose. No
exactly,
question.
right? It is a business decision, and that's what he had at the goal line.
But he still was good enough to be all pro. So he had a pretty good year. Somebody's valuing him.
Somebody left him off. I saw this on Twitter yesterday. Somebody left him off of LSU's top 10 DB list. I'm like, that dude's number 1.
Well, obviously that's somebody who's never inhaled, because he should have been on that list. Come on. He's Michael Cauble of WBRZ. We'll take a timeout. We'll be back with plenty more to talk about, including the LSU Tigers basketball team and Balmonary's baseball Tigers right around the corner.
That's right.
Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information. If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau St. Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase. Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rantz.
Welcome back, everybody, to Sports Shorts, presented by LeBear's Casino. Michael Cauble of WBRZ joining us. And this past Saturday, Michael, they had the 50-year anniversary of Pete Maravich breaking the all-time scoring record, which is really cool. It was the reunion weekend for LSU basketball. A lot of his former teammates from the late 60s that were there. I wonder, granted, us old-timers or anybody over the age of really 40 truly gets the Pete Maravich, what he means to not only LSU but the history of basketball. But I wonder about 20-year-olds that are playing these days if they really get it. But what was it like in the building and all that?
I mean, I wasn't there, so I can't help you on that one. But I watched it on TV just like you.
Yeah.
Weekends are for the boys. My 8-year-old boy. No, it was great that LSU does that. And I think that's something that Herb implemented years ago. Let's acknowledge our past heroes, our success. Retiring jerseys while people are still alive. I think you saw that a lot in football, and you see it in basketball, even with Simone and Sylvia and Shaq, of course. Statues with Shaq. It's a shame that we can't get this Maravich statue out front of the Maravich Center, in a timely fashion. His release actually came out before Skip's, but Skip's statue is up before Pete. So, but I mean, to your point, it was a different game, yes, but his skill set, his knowledge of the game, his fundamentals were just so off the chart that I think he would transcend any generation. You watch the film of what he did, and you watch the film of that night, and it seemed like he was really pressing that night, trying to get the scoring record. A lot of missed shots early, but just the way his teammates got him the ball and the way that he found them in space. I mean, I think athletes of today would love to play with Pete Maravich, and I would love to see how his game translates. He's not as physical, wouldn't be as physical as they are in today's game, but I don't think that you could stop a Pete Maravich in today's game.
Yeah, that's always the fun debate, right? Is to try to, eras, with this player, with this era and all that. But you look at Pete Maravich and if the success that Steph Curry's having, being a league MVP, and he's every bit as good as Steph Curry, right? If not better.
Yeah.
So, and probably has more assist handles to him than a Steph Curry does. They both shoot the ball ridiculously great. So, I mean, if a Steph Curry can adapt and find a way out of Davidson College, I have no doubt that Pistol Pete would have been in this modern era, had he been healthy.
Because I think he'd probably be bigger than Steph is currently as well. So, I mean, I think that's an interesting, correlation between the two. Is you look at somebody with more of an outside game that's still finding success, or kind of changed the game for a little bit there. It seemed like everybody was, turning towards the three in the NBA, and I think you're seeing a little bit of it with LSU basketball right now. The opponents that they're facing, Alabama shot more threes than they shot twos. They're getting ready to play Vandy that does the same thing on a routine basis because they're trying to make up that gap, and not steal the game that way, but certainly get their shots in and maybe change the way the game is played to their advantage.
Will Wade, it's going to be an interesting SEC stories on him 20 years from now, or 10 or 15 years from now, right?
That's a good point.
Because this is year 3, and it has been in some ways the best of times and the worst of times, and there's always this hint. I mean, heck, I was at a game a couple weeks ago, and I'm talking to national sports writers and local beat writers that cover this thing, and 3 of them told me, I don't know if he's going to make the year. I think there's going to be some NCAA things come out, before the year's up. I mean, like, so there's this cloud still kind of out there hanging off in the distance. Like, is the shoe about to fall? Sure. You know, can I really enjoy the moment? Can I really get excited about the future? Or is all this going to come crashing to a halt? And I mean, that's how I feel personally. And that's how a lot of, people that cover this team feel. Like, I don't want to get too excited or too close because who knows? But it's been an unbelievable 3-year run.
It's interesting you say that because I feel like, you know what, let's roll with it while it's here. I mean, it is.
Well, I mean, that's the ideal way, no question.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I can't wait for the shoe to fall, so I got to cover the team regardless. But, yeah, you see 40 drop, a Twitter, article link, and you run through it. You look for LSU, look for keywords, Will Wade, and the latest one, they're not involved in it. But just to talk about the basketball side of it, it is amazing. You think about the transformation. You think about the transformation that LSU football went with their offense, and you almost look at it in the same regards with LSU basketball, but on a roster transformation. Their ability to recruit, to get out there and get those players on campus, and then once they get to campus, to develop them. That's something that the previous coaches weren't doing at LSU, and I think it is the difference in this team. Will Wade has a style, he has a structure, but he's also getting the talent that is required to play at an elite level in college basketball, and they're dipping their toe in the one-and-dones. They've seen that. Certainly they're going to have more early entries as this thing progresses. But I think, having a plan. When Ben Simmons came here, I don't think anybody had a plan. Now I think Will Wade obviously has a plan, and he has, a way to use those guys while they're on campus, a way to get them better so that they get more of them to campus, and they're having success in the meantime. Now, last year was certainly unfortunate that, from Will Wade's perspective, he didn't get to enjoy any of that success, and maybe we could have seen what that team could have been in the postseason with them there. But I think you're seeing the early steps. I mean, look, I didn't think they'd be 8-0 right now in the SEC. Not with that roster.
10 wins in a row at this point.
Yeah, with that roster and the way that, some of the players have to step up and fill in at a young time in their careers, I think it's pretty remarkable what they've been able to do. And I can't wait to see, as this schedule stiffens.
At Auburn, February 18th at home
South Carolina,
Kentucky.
Florida, Kentucky right in a row. I mean, those games I think will tell you what this team is about. But I think we've seen a lot of resiliency in them already.
Yeah. The thing about Will Wade, he's got a little bit of – he's got that harshness of a John Brady at times. He's got that toughness and that yell, scream, and not take crap. But obviously he's got enough of the sugar and enough of the arm around your back, on your back to be able to not only recruit the high-profile basketball player, but to get the best out of them without them going into the transfer portal.
I think what you're seeing is a little bit what he said yesterday, too, is it's their process. I said this last night on the 10 o'clock news. He very much reminds me of Nick Saban in that he's so process-oriented, detail-oriented, everything matters. From, talking about how much they sleep to what they eat to, how they go about practice and their conditionings and all those things. But I think that his process also, he can point to it. He said this yesterday. He's like, look, it may not be the best way, but we're getting results with our way. So, like, you need to adapt to what we do, not vice versa. And so I think once you have some success with that, that goes a long way.
The buy-in factor.
And that's what he said. He hates the word buy-in, but there's not really a better word for it, the commitment, the belief, the trust, I guess. That was my word with football this year was trust. Everybody trusted each other, and you see what they can do because of that belief in one another and that confidence that, okay, we may not get it done here, but I know you're going to be back next time to get it done.
That's a Skip Bertman, the ball of trust.
Right.
That was back in the 90s. He had a giant crystal ball on a platform in the coach's office, and his story was that, hey,
once you break it,
we got 40 guys on this roster, and everybody's holding this ball of trust, and if one guy he takes his hand off that ball of trust and it breaks, it's going to shatter into a million pieces. Can't possibly never put it back together, no matter how much glue you have. It's not ever going to get back together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then he even went so far one year as to give everybody a keychain with a little crystal ball on the end of it. That was after my days.
How quickly did Ronnie lose that?
Oh, no. That was Skip Bertman, there's the pre-1996 Olympic era and the post. Pre-96, it was more audio tapes, visualization.
Yeah.
Post-96, video
that's when John
and
Jackson
props.
got in.
Yeah, that's when John had the budget and the props.
Do you ever feel cheated? Do you ever feel like, man, I got here just a little too early?
Yeah, no, I was fortunate because I was close to John and I was working with him on other projects and I was doing Jumbo Sports Tower. I still was close enough to the program to get all the little information and I had, Doug Thompson and Blair Barbie, those guys are friends of mine. And so I still, even though I wasn't on the team, I still got a lot of the behind the stories.
I know what you mean, because, like, obviously I wasn't on the team, but, like, just being there in 2000 and being around those guys and being young enough to be around those guys, I will never forget the night in the Crown Plaza, which I don't think it was a Crown Plaza at the time.
You talking about in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, the reunion roast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
that was the fall of 2000 going into Skip's last year, 2001.
You talking about things like, I get into sporting events all the time. I would pay money to go listen to those stories.
Oh, yeah. Well, they had the roast, which was, sold tables.
No, the players.
I mean, yeah, but then this was the players only roast, where we literally had a microphone on a stand in the middle of the room. They put Skip in a chair. I think he had like a couple guys sitting next to him, former coaches. And then guys literally took turns just off the top going up to the mic and telling stories. And it was pretty legendary. And I told a couple myself that I looked at Skip one time, and there were a couple I'd never told in public. And he cringed. He gave me the, ooh, Jumbo. God, I had to go with that one, huh?
Bringing them all up.
Oh, my goodness. Let's talk a little LSU baseball. It's that time of the year. Sure. It's rare that LSU baseball isn't in the top 10, but they're not. They're ranked anywhere from 11th to 20th in all the polls. SEC is loaded once again. I think there's like 6 or 7 teams that are ranked ahead of them, which is ridiculous. But for whatever reason, I'm not worried about that. I look at this team. It's the healthiest they've been on the mound in a long time. Hell, Nick Storrs pitched 2 innings in a scrimmage and struck out 5. I didn't even know he was alive. I mean, Nick Storrs is like the mythical Sid Finch that pitched for the Mets back in the late 80s, the Sports Illustrated article. Like, he's this superstar that's always been hurt, never been seen. But even Nick Storrs looks like he's healthy and going to give him some innings out of the bullpen. Like, this team, I think, has the dominant pitching to really surprise some people.
I think they're right where they need to be. Right? Not a lot of expectations nationally, a lot to prove internally. And I think, like you said, as healthy as they can be at this point. Now, we know how seasons unfold, and, look, half that pitching staff may not be there to throw, but right now it seems like they have the full complement of what you need to make up a championship team, whether that's starters, middle relief, closers, late inning guys, all of that on the mound. Now, hitting is going to be a concern. And you might see some 2-0 games, 2-1 games, 1-1 games, late into ball games until they figure it out. But I think that they do have enough, right? And I think it's going to be fun to watch that team grow throughout the course of the season.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the freshman Doty from Denham Springs High. This guy was on the USA national team a couple of summers. Had an okay fall. They feel like he's going to have a really big spring, battling for that second base job. But, it's all about hitting. He's the next, blue chip, turn down a lot of money guy.
Zach Mathis, though, is the guy that they cannot stop talking about.
Yeah, Zach Mathis looks like Chris Reed's brother.
He looks like a nerdier Chris Reed.
He's 17. He wears 17, the same number. He throws right and hits left, just like Reed. He wears the glasses just like Reed. Yeah. Similar size. Yeah. Probably just a little bit better player is what they think.
Yeah.
But, hey, I'll take a little bit better Chris Reed. He was good for them.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when he said he hits better than Chris Reed. I was like, professional hitter Chris Reed? Somebody hits better? So, no, I think, they cannot stop talking about him. Just talking about his scrap, the way that he goes about the game. And I think, again, that on a team, maybe got a little bit finessey, I think you need some dirty kids, and that's what's great. He's a JUCO kid, doesn't expect anything to be given to him, comes in here, works hard. Paul talks about how, the resources that he had at his last stop versus here. So
Daniel Cabrera is got to have a big year. We're talking like 320, 15 homer kind of year.
Got to be a leader too, though.
But I don't know if that's in his makeup. I think he's going to lead by example more than verbal. Cade Beloso's a guy that can lead with the verbal as well as the play on the field. If you get a 320 and 15 homer out of a Cabrera and a 305 and 10 homers out of Beloso, I think the rest will fall into play. We got to go to a great show. Thank you very much, Michael, for joining us. I want to thank Robin Fambrough, who took the time to join us a little bit earlier. Check out Michael on WBRZ, not on the weekends, just during the weekdays.
That's right.
Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information. If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau St. Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase. Sports fans, you don't want to miss the biggest celebration of the summer. It's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction weekend in Natchitoches, June 25th through 27th. The 2020 Hall of Fame class features legendary sports figures Nick Saban, Phil Robertson, and many more. Log on to lasportshall.com for more ticket information.